Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing business content from accomplished leaders to bring you value, to scale your business, and to better yourself personally. And really hopefully you enjoyed. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm here with a good friend, Eric Cross, with Duke's Landscape Management. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Robert. Great to be here.
Good to see you. It's been a while since I've seen you in person, and glad you were able to spare some time and share with my audience and how life has been busy for you for the last wee while.
Yeah, it sure has. And I got to say, I like the COVID beard. It looks good.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So just so the audience, tell me a little bit about your background, how long you've been in the industry. Tell me a little bit about your background to Duke's.
Okay, started Duke's in 1983. I was a student at Delaware Valley College studying horticulture. First full year was 86. We've grown pretty steady ever since, but slow growth. So been in this a long time. We have two branches in northern New Jersey. And we really focus on maintaining large properties, big corporate campuses, hospitals, HOAs, landscape maintenance, snow plowing. We do some landscape construction as well. So we're kind of a full service for that part of the segment of the industry.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. And then, obviously, as we hinted to our audience, you've been busy for the last number of months. Can you explain why you've been busy?
Sure. So I got to the point in my career where, I thought it'd be a good time to exit. And, I don't want to work, until I'm 70. I want to enjoy, the fruits of my labor. My wife and I love to travel. And so I had an idea of at what point would be a good time to get out. And so prior to that, I started really thinking about what is it that I have to offer a potential buyer. And that kind of put me on the whole journey of learning how to sell a landscape company in today's market.
Cool. And I know I'm not going to ask you, any of the details of the transaction, because I know that's obviously confidential information, but, obviously you've now, it's now past you. You've, done a great job at coming up with some notes on some of the ideas that perhaps you would have maybe either done differently, or maybe some of the things you did do to get a nice exit. So I'd love to hear some of your ideas so that, again, we're in this crazy market. I mean, I've had some investment bankers tell me that it's, this is the best time in the market. And I heard that 5 years ago when I sold my company, but that they're obviously, it continues to be a hot market. It's going to probably change at some point, but people thinking about some type of an exit, there's probably some things they could maybe start doing now in preparation for that. So I'd love to hear them from you.
Definitely. You have to start early, and you can't start early enough. And in fact, I think at this point in my career, I think you should always be building a company that's saleable, that has value, because your banks want to see that, your customers want to see it, your people want to see that it's a solid company that has a great future, is growing, has opportunity, is staying on really the cutting edge of technology, equipment, all that. And so I started my process about 5 years before I actually sold the company, and really took a hard look at where we were, what our focus was, our client mix, really everything, and what would be valuable for a potential buyer. I started talking to friends who sold their companies. I started reading books about it, listening to podcasts. And what I learned is that, the buyer, this is not an industry where the buyer is just going to come in and give you a check and you get to ride off into the sunset. That could happen, but they're going to pay you less. They want you to stay on. They want you to be there for the transition, keep the customers happy, keep your employees happy. They bought your company for a reason, and they want you to keep doing what you're doing. And so when I eventually sold, I signed a 3-year employment contract. So I'm staying on 3 years to build this book of business, but just to make sure that this has been a safe bet for the buyer.
Cool. And what's your primary role going to be over the next 3 years? We talked offline about obviously making sure your employees are happy, but what's your primary role after that?
So we are going to grow. The company may look at doing other acquisitions of folding them into our area. And that's pretty much it. Just, safety, customer retention, build the team, healthy financials. And that's kind of the secret recipe, which we all should be doing anyway.
Yeah. You touched on your mix of clients. To talk about that in relation to, again, trying to make sure you're maximizing the value of your business. What should that mix ideally look like?
Okay, so for us, a couple of things that really kind of surprised me in the end. One of the things is when the buyer comes in to meet with you, they're here one day and to meet with you, interview you, and then do the drive, meaning look at some of your properties that you're maintaining, look at your facilities, and they're making these giant, massive decisions on really just one day of, the dog and pony show. And so knowing that, we really focused on getting really high-end work, big office buildings that were close together, so we can literally drive down the road and say, that one's ours, that one's ours, that one's ours. Very impressive. We do some work from a local university. The hotel we worked out of on that day was strategically right in the middle of everything. When you're doing a drive, you don't want a lot of windshield time. Even if you're going to a great customer, you don't want to be driving for half an hour with just, through the farmland. You want to show them more work you're doing and the density that you're doing it.
No, that's great.
So when early on, I really got to feel that any more than like 15% of our revenue, if that was like landscape construction, like non-renewable work, that would be a problem. So we limited that. And then we're in a snow market in northern New Jersey. So we built our portfolio. So about 40% of our snowplow contracts are seasonal. So we get paid whether it snows or not. And that really took a lot of risk out of it as well.
Cool. And then when you have some of those contracts with some of those bigger, say, campuses, and are they looking at contracts? Are they looking for like a 1, 2, 3 year type contract just to, again, have that security that they're there for the long term?
Yeah. And it blew my mind how much information they wanted. It blew my mind. It took us months to pull it together. So, having a copy of a contract is just the tip of the iceberg. We had, there was legal, accounting, environmental, customers, HR. There was all these different buckets. Each bucket had, 50 questions, and each question that you answered begged 2 more questions. I mean, it's incredible, the work that goes into this. And so the company bought us, they hired outside vendors to do the vetting, and they're professionals at this. This is what they do. And going back to the market, when we sold just a few months ago, there's 43 potential buyers right now in the commercial landscape.
Wow, that's a lot. Wow, that's crazy.
It really is. And the broker we use said that they get a call once a week of a private equity company that's brand new that wants to get into the space. And he would say, why? There's too many people in the space already. And, the word got out that we're a good bet. We have repetitive work, repetitive billing. If you run it right, guaranteed profits. So a lot of money flying into the landscape maintenance industry.
And is there any particular market that's hotter than others, or is it just any type of, so that green industry, reoccurring revenue type model throughout the US?
I'm not sure about that. I would say that some of the buyers are brand new and they don't know anything about the industry and they're learning. That seemed to me that was going to be very messy. Some of the buyers are looking to strategically buy in a geographic area. Some are just looking for great companies that they didn't even care where they're from. So we interviewed with one that said we bought a company in Maine and we bought a company in Hawaii. There's no rhyme or reason to that. They're just looking for great companies.
Now, Going back to, again, you reviewing your whole exit, what are a couple of other areas you either hit a home run because you did a lot of pre-work to it, or maybe an area that it was like you were blindsided and you probably, thinking back, probably should have done a better job of positioning yourself in a certain area?
Okay, so yeah, so two great questions. So what I refer to this as building my trophy case. So when I put myself in the shoes of a buyer, like what kind of company am I looking to buy? Um, we we did a really good job, my whole team, of getting this thing polished up and pretty and ready. So meaning our workman's comp experience mod is zero point 0.7. We
Nice
won
job.
best place to work for New Jersey Magazine multiple times. Our revenue was growing, our EBITDA was growing. Um, everything that you could look at and measure was on the uptick, and that's what a buyer wants to buy. We have longevity with the people on our team. We went through EOS, which I love, and I came from the peer group that I was in. And if you don't know about EOS, there's some videos on YouTube to learn about it. Really good system where you kind of get the team together, make sure you get the right people, and everybody knows what the vision of the company is. And a lot of good communication happens with that. And for us, it was a game changer. That's when we started to really grow and grow profits. So we were very intentional about that: culture, safety, retention, healthy, and that were a great opportunity. And we actually, the offer we got was higher than by quite a bit than my mind, where I had kind of a high and a low number for
That's
us.
great.
Yeah, so we're very happy about that.
That's a nice win. And what about a miss in terms of something you just wish you'd either understood more or known more about going into the process?
Yeah, a couple things that were a big surprise for me were, how EBITDA, what EBITDA stands for: earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So the depreciation part, like landscapers, we've got a lot of trucks and equipment, most of which is on a 5-year depreciation schedule. So when we put together the EBITDA, and then you get paid really a multiple of that dollar amount. We had a lot of trucks and equipment that were 6 years old or 7 years old, skid steers, backhoes, dump trucks, that had a lot of value. And they weren't on a depreciation schedule anymore because they were past 5 years. So I unknowingly made a list of all this stuff. It came to a lot of money, and went to the buyer and said, okay, here's the list of the stuff that has already been fully depreciated, but you're getting in the deal. Just write me a check for this. And they were like, no, that's actually part of the deal. If you need those trucks and equipment to make that revenue, it's all part of it. I was shocked. It was a big number. Another thing we kind of missed out on is with regard to inventory. We just never tracked inventory on our balance sheet. And so with ice melt or mulch or plants or block, landscapers have a lot of inventory, chemical, fertilizer. So there was a big number there that if it's not on the balance sheet, it doesn't count.
Mm.
So probably in hindsight, I should have counted that, put that on balance sheet. And then with the equipment, say we had a backhoe that was in the yard that was worth 40 grand, we could have sold that prior to selling the business. And if you need a backhoe, rent one for a day.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
So things like that actually turned out to be pretty big numbers that I wish I'd have known.
Yep, okay, that's great advice for the listeners, because again, if they're thinking about that, they could do a little bit of pre-planning there.
Mm-hmm.
What other takeaways to share with the audience? Just again, thinking back, and it's been a pretty stressful process. And how long did that whole process take in terms of due diligence and talking to a broker?
Yeah, so I interviewed brokers in the beginning of May. We signed with a broker in May. It took us from May to August 1st just to get ready. So the broker knows what the potential buyer is going to want to see. So a lot of that work was done at that point, and that would be copies of contracts, insurance policies. we went from, I incorporated in 1988, and in 1990 we elected to be a subchapter S corp. Like that, it gets to the point where the buyer's like, I want a copy of that form from 1990, and it's like, well, I guess we'll try to find it. So things like that. It took a lot of time, a lot of digging, and there were 100 things like that. Um, so we went live beginning of August, and we had the buyer in the first week. Interviewed with the second company, and the buyer came back with an offer and just said, "Listen, we're going to make an aggressive offer. We want you to take this off the market. We want to try to close fast." And away we went. And then it was from that point. So from August through November, again, was a lot of work. It would be hard for me to verbalize how much work goes into this. But we did close beginning in November.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard process as well. I mean, it's stressful. I'm assuming you're not sharing any of this with employees. You're trying to keep things under wraps. So probably
Right.
A lot of it lying on your shoulders.
Yeah. So just my office manager knew, because I needed her to help me assemble a lot of these things. No one else knew. My customers didn't know. So, I was telling Robert earlier, it's kind of like, the whole process selling is you feel like you've been running up a hill for 3 months and you're exhausted. And you get to the top of the hill and you think you're done. Well, after the acquisition, there's another hill. And so we've been running up that hill now since November. And again, all good. We're very happy with the decision, and we love the company we're with. We haven't lost anybody. We haven't lost any customers. But there's been a lot of me giving people a hug and telling them it's going to be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about things that you can't control. Just keep doing what you're doing. So all good. But yeah, it's been a tough climb.
Yeah, and as I say, we said off camera, you need to organize a vacation. So that's now recorded. Now, couple of quick questions before we finish up. I mean, obviously, during this whole process, it's nice to have an exit, and obviously have a nice payday, for all the hard years you put into it. But I'm sure on your mind as well, you're wanting to make sure that not only are your employees taken care of, because a lot of them, as you say, have been with you for a long time, but also your clients. I mean, you've got some great relationships with your clients. So I'm sure that was going through your mind as well, and how to, make sure they're all taken care of. They've got a good future ahead of them. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that actually starts with interviewing the broker. Different brokers handle this differently. Some people were really into, how's this going to look after the acquisition? What do you want to get out of it? What's your goal for the people that are here? And other people are really just, it's transactional. It's just numbers and a deal. And there's a lot less pre-work and really no post-work. The broker that I used, I'm still dealing with them now in a good way as a consultant. So, when I sat down with the broker and established, taking care of my people and taking care of my customers are the number one thing. That list of 43 went down to 3.
Right.
And that's who we talked to. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a big list, shortening it down quickly. If people, I know you've already shared a few items from your long list of things you've learned from the process, but if people want to get in touch with you just to sort of learn a little bit more about some of the other items, and just, you can share your experience, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably the best way, my email is changing, so probably the best way to reach me is LinkedIn.
Okay, so just Eric Cross on LinkedIn, and people can just direct message you and just reach out and organize a call or a meeting or something. So
sure, be happy to help.
That'd be great. Any other parting words for people who are, somewhat considering that in, a couple of years, 3-4 years out? Any other parting words?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and we should all be working on this constantly anyway. You really need to have a good culture in place, and that doesn't happen on its own. You got to be really intentional about that. How you treat people, how you bring them along, who you hire, and then the other thing is you really got to have, I think, a thirst for learning. When I started in this business, we had a push mower and a broom. in 1977, working for a local landscaper. So you can imagine all the things I've seen technology-wise and everything happening in this industry. And then the third thing would be just constant improvement. Every year there's something new that comes out, whether it's equipment or who knows what. But you just got to make sure that you do a lessons learned each year. How can we get better next year? Because your competition's doing that.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I mean, 3 things right there are just thing I teach as well. So yeah, I thank you for reinforcing that. So Eric, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure always to see you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And I look forward to seeing you at future events.
Yep, sounds good, Robert. Thank you very much. Good seeing you too.
Thanks, Eric. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or for your personal life. This is Robert Clinkenbeard along with David Anderson. I would love to get you and your friends to join us on your journey. If you have any ideas for future speakers, or if you just want to pass this on to friends, family, other business colleagues to sign up and subscribe, that would be awesome. Anyway, thanks everyone, and have a great 2022. Cheers.